So this is like the third week in June in the UNL pollinator plot, and I'm looking at part of the more restored prairie or prairie part of this we planted, and this is the one that we had a lot of bindweed in, and I've done some chemical control. You can see it's really knocked down that weed. And we have Rocky Mountain bee plant and a few other things mixed, sunflower over there, and some blanket flower on the far end over here, which is really neat. But really the diversity is pretty low. I mean, it did get all the weeds, but there's not much coming up yet. We've had a couple weeks of dry weather, perhaps, you know, with a little bit of rain, some of the other things will come up that were a little lower level growing. So, you know, I don't know, I'm not 100% happy with the results, at least thus far. It doesn't look so hot. We'll go over to the weeded plot here in a minute. I also, before we do that though, wanted to show you the sort of water-wise pollinator friendly plot that we have in, and we've got the plants in, but we're still in the process of developing and landscaping that plot. The plots came in and we wanted to get them in the ground, and so we have them mulched, and around them there are no plants grown from seed in here that we've planted. They're all greenhouse grown or at other facilities and then shipped in, but most of these will be fairly water drought tolerant once they get established, which is nice. So, but we do have to do a little bit of dirt work. We had this disc by a tractor and it's a little clumpy, and we also will put a path, that's what the flags are marking, through here into the other plot. Around here we have planted in the last couple weeks some oat, alfalfa, clover, bird's foot trefoil mix around the edges, around that prairie habitat. The idea is if we ever need to burn it, it will at least demonstrate to people that you want to put a green barrier up to not have the fire spread, and also provide a weed barrier around the plot into the more mowed lawn grass area. And that's come up really nice. We had just the right perfect rain and a good mix. The belated plant looks more like grass, actually is oats. Then we've got a mix of alfalfa and clover as the smaller stuff, and that should come in really nice. You can see the spot's got a little bit more rain and plowed well, but that goes around the entire sort of prairie plot. We've got Kendra working over here. Hi, Kendra. Her section of the plot with the sort of prairie habitat, she's weeded by hand, and you know, you can see it's got a lot more diversity in it. It did get a little higher rate of seed mix when we started people off. We started this end, and they actually planted heavier than they needed to. So she's got some good diversity in here. You know, there's some weeds, but in about 3 weeks she's going to have a lot of nice sunflowers, some vetch in here. We've got a few grasses that we planted that got heated for whatever reason, fairly heavy in here. So she's got a really nice diversity, and it looks really good, I think. So, you know, it's kind of neat to see that. And you can tell, you know, I think the weed, we'll see what happens if we get some good rain. Maybe in the other portion of the plot we'll get a little more diversity come up, but this is pretty high. She does have more weeds and clovers and things, which are okay, but you know, not necessarily what we want here permanently. But as she weeds, it should develop a little bit more. So that's nice. And then over here is our berry plot, and that's doing really well. We've got our mulch down, some pre-emergent in the ground to keep the weeds from coming up through the mulch, and newspaper, which is kind of nice, as our weed barrier. It's working pretty well. We did have to water for the first time. We don't have our drip irrigation system in yet, so we did water by spray, which is kind of nice. And then our last section will be actually out here today having some folks disc this up and move the mulch, which will be, some will stay here, but a lot of it's going to go over to our water-wise pollinator friendly plot on the other side. So we're having some nice help from our friends and partners in the agronomy and horticulture department. Some of their staff members moving things. Josh over there and his group has been really helpful and helping us do some of the stuff that would take us hours to do. They can do in a few minutes with large equipment. So anyway, this is where we stand on June 3rd. I wanted to give you a quick overview, or excuse me, the third week of June. I wanted to give you a quick overview of how things look. And hopefully we get a little rain, help us along a little bit and keep things growing. Like I said, it's been an extremely wet year, but we're kind of getting a little drier into that summer part. And I hope this really comes along. We hope we have some people out here this fall at least looking at the start of the plot, and then coming back next year, hopefully really well established and you know, looking like something other than sort of a fledgling project. But anyway, we will keep doing the videos and hope you enjoy it, and please, as always, leave comments or questions related to the plot. Thanks.